Welcome to the Human Nature Channel. I'm your host, mtamsula, and what am I doing here? Well, it's Tuesday night once again here in my dad's late in the day farm garage. Normally, I drive up here and I arrive at 4 in the afternoon every Tuesday. My first stop is the house where I drop stuff off. I take some food from the refrigerator and I take it down to my car. Then I drive down to the farm garage. Dad's already here. I start unpacking my stuff. I get out my camera. There's notebooks, there's pens. When I'm all settled in, I make myself a cup of coffee. And I sit down at this card table behind me with Dad, and we shoot the breeze. And I find out what's going on with the neighbors, what's going on with relatives, who got a new job, that sort of thing. Dad also can crack me up, especially when there's something out there that rubs him the wrong way. He's there. I can't stand watching the news when they talk about COVID and baseball and the cardboard fans in the stands. And how are those owners supposed to pay those players if they're not selling tickets? And what about the money from the concession stands? And what about the money from parking? And I'm like, I don't know. Dad can be a trip. And this will go on for about an hour and a half. And then at 6 p.m., Dad will get up and say, well, I think I'm going down to the house. I'll see you tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, Dad, I'll see you tomorrow. And starting at 6 p.m., I got this place to myself. Except that's not what happened today. I get up here, I stop at the house. Dad is already in the house. I go into the living room, and there he is in his chair, and he's got his TV in front of him, and he's watching the news, and he's like, oh, I just got in 10 minutes ago. And I'm like, oh. And he tells me that earlier in the day when it was cooler, he was on the Kubota lawn tractor, and he got a lot of mowing done. Now he's kind of tired from that, and also, he says, I came in when it started getting hot out there. I'm like, yeah, it's getting hot out there. I says, okay, well, I'm going to go down to the farm garage. He's like, oh, okay. I'll see you in a half hour. I'm like, okay. So I come down here. I unload all my stuff. I get all settled in. Make myself a cup of coffee. And I sit in the rocking chair before the two open garage doors. And there's a clock above my head. I'm like, okay, right now it's 4:30, so see Dad in a half hour, okay. Then it's 5 o'clock. I'm like, okay, Dad will be coming down any minute, okay. 5:30. Okay, this is turning into a long half hour. Normally, I wouldn't have thought anything about it. If you adjust for Dad time, what you do is whenever he says a half hour, you automatically add an hour and 45 minutes. I've seen it before. He takes his time coming down. Except something happened last week. What it was, I'm getting ready to leave, okay? And he's sitting in his rocking chair, and I'm actually standing in front of the rocking chair. He stands up, and suddenly he grabs my arm like this. He's like, hold your arm up so I can balance on it. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's standing there on one foot, and he's like, my leg just went numb. I'm like, oh, well, that's not good. And he's like, no. Now, 6 years ago, he had hip replacement surgery on that side. So it's not a surprise. He might have been sitting on it wrong. And he had this pillow that was all scrunched up and it was down in the seat of the rocking chair. But anyway, he's holding on to me and he's standing on one foot. And he's like, well, okay, I can a little bit of feelings coming back. Okay, to try it out, going back and forth on one foot and the other, one foot and the other. And he's like, okay, and finally put some weight on it, and he walks it off, right? Okay, and that went on for like about 3 minutes. So anyway, it's 5:45, still no dad. And I'm like, I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to do a welfare check on Dad because of what happened last week, in case it's a problem that keeps coming back. Who knows? I'll feel better if I do. But I didn't want to tell Dad it was a welfare check. So I came up with this cover story that I was going down to the house to get a bottle of hot sauce out of the refrigerator. Now, I know full well there is no bottle of hot sauce in the refrigerator. Dad doesn't like hot sauce. Dad likes garlic. Dad likes horseradish. But he doesn't like hot sauce, so there won't be any there. But go down, go into the basement, go up the stairs, go through the kitchen, go into the living room. Dad is sitting in his chair. He's got his TV in front of him. And I'm relieved. I'm like, okay, everything's fine. That was the only reason I came down. And he's like, did you come down for something? And I'm like, I came down for a bottle of hot sauce. And he's like, there's no hot sauce down here. He's like, I don't like hot sauce. I'm like, well, just in case my brother left a bottle behind in the refrigerator, just checking. And he's like, well, what do you want the hot sauce for? And I'm like, well, you leave hard-boiled eggs for me down in the refrigerator in the farm garage, right? And he's like, yeah. Like these. And I says, well, I like them with hot sauce. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay. So we have established the fact that there is no bottle of hot sauce on this property. Dad says, I'll see you in 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, Dad. So I come back down here, and Dad finally does come down about 25 after. He drives down in the RV. Now at 6:30, I like to watch the national news. Okay, normally I watch it alone, but I guess I'll be watching it with Dad, although he may start talking while it's on. Anyway, you know, Dad comes in, makes himself a cup of coffee, and we sit down at the card table and we put on the news. And I'm like, I just want to hear the headlines. You know, he's like, oh, okay. So, record number of COVID deaths. Donald Trump retweeted a video of these doctors talking up hydroxychloroquine, and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter all pulled it down. And then there's COVID in baseball, and we're like, no. I hit the mute button. I look at Dad, he looks at me. Whew, that was close. So anyway, now it's 6:30. To make a long story short, at 8:45, Dad's sitting in the rocking chair. I'm sitting in a folding chair off to the side. And I'm looking up at the clock, and he's got a cup of coffee, and I think he was eating a brownie or something. And he's like, well, I'm not holding you up, am I? And I'm like, no, Dad, you know, you finish your stuff, and then I'll start mine. And he's like, well, okay. And, you know, there was stuff going on. He was up in the garden. He was watering. I was down here. I was cooking up dinner. I was eating it. So anyway, you know, it's 8:45, and he's finishing up his coffee, and he's there. I'm going to start getting out of my chair. I'm like, okay, Dad. You can't begrudge a man his seat in a rocking chair before two open garage doors on a warm summer's evening. Can you? I can't. So, how about some Las Vegas shooting truth community yak, because that's what you're here for. Due to circumstances beyond my control, I'm doing this yak from my apartment, which is ironic since I went up to the farm on Tuesday with nothing prepared. Usually I do have a script of about 1,100 words, and I prefer it that way. I have gone up without a script in the past, but that usually means I'll be writing one on the spot, and that takes up a chunk of time, along with all the retakes needed to get usable video. Then it's all the more likely I'll be going to bed at 4:30 in the morning, which I'd rather not do. So ideally, I have a finished script before I go up to the farm, but that didn't happen this week. I had nada. I guess I've done over 60 videos on the Las Vegas shooting, so I've been here before asking, what else is there to say about the Las Vegas shooting and Stephen Paddock specifically? I'm always looking for a fresh angle. Although I'll revisit some issues, I'm not interested in repeating myself if I can help it. I've said before Paddock was the wealthiest mass shooter ever. He may have lost or spent a lot of money since 2014, but he still spent something like $50,000 or more on guns and ammunition. He had to put up, what's it called? A float of $1 million just to get room 32, 135 on demand. In the annals of mass shooters, in many cases young men with no futures, Paddock was an outlier. But that's not new. I'd like to hear more about Paddock's work history before he went into real estate. I'd like to know more about his vacations and travels on cruise ships. But there's really not that much out there on these areas of inquiry. I know because I looked. However, that doesn't mean I won't stumble upon some new angle in the future. It's feast or famine when it comes to doing Las Vegas shooting videos. This leaves me talking about things related to October 1st, 2017, such as YouTube content creating members of the Las Vegas shooting truth community. My last video, number 81, had the title, "This video will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, Jim." Now, in the video, I did mention the old TV show Mission Impossible, and I thought using the tagline from the show's opening was funny. But I actually had a serious reason for saying this in mind. In the last month, I've seen YouTube channels I subscribed to get taken down for reasons I could not discern. I subscribed to Stefan Molyneux. I used to watch his videos until I got bored with them. Sometimes, though, he would interview a notable figure I wanted to hear from, and then I'd watch. Molyneux got taken down because one of his last videos was an interview with an ex-cop breaking down the Rayshard Brooks police shooting in Atlanta. This is from a policeman's perspective, and you hear questions asked like, how could one of the cops get charged if he was concussed? You can't cover things like that on YouTube anymore. Dan Dix's Press for Truth got taken down because he was showing video of what was really going on with anti-police protests in Canada. What I'm saying to my fellow content creators is, a video you just posted or your entire channel could go poof. I posted video number 81 last Friday. Later in the day, I'm looking in the queue of channels I subscribe to, and I see Brian Shields posted a new video. Next thing I know, the video is taken down. Brian posted another video, and I checked out the first few seconds of it. Brian was doing a body-worn camera video like he's done dozens of times. Then it comes down. Brian posts a third video, this time switching out the audio track with some orchestral pop music, and it comes down. Brian posts a fourth video where he explains that his channel has always been a video journal of the Las Vegas shooting, and he plans on doing things a little different in the future. This video will self-destruct in 5 seconds. I actually said that. Isn't that weird? Now, I'm kidding Brian here. He is a great guy. I've commented on some of his YouTube videos and occasionally he answers me back. Even this time when I commented about my fear YouTube found a TOS way to take down LVS videos, he responded saying he didn't think any of the other LVS YouTube channels using BWC footage were in danger. I hope he's right. So that's it for today. I have an idea for a song that I want to work on, and I'll do it next week. Hopefully I can redeem myself after last week's attempt. Oh, did my version of ZZ Top, She's Got Me Under Pressure, turn out bad. I had the song in the headphones I wore so I could scat along with Billy Gibbons' guitar playing. But the headphones made it so I couldn't hear if I was on key, and I don't think I was. Now, if you think somebody choking under pressure while singing She's Got Me Under Pressure is funny, mission accomplished. Always leave 'em smiling is our motto here at the Human Nature channel. So there's always something interesting either inside or outside my dad's garage. What can I show you today? So where am I? Well, I'm standing in a stream bed that cuts between the two farm fields. And I've been meaning to get back down here and get some video footage of the place. Very interesting. Haven't been down here in a while. Things change too. Last time I was down here, I don't remember this fallen tree. And you have shale, and a lot of times shale breaks away and comes spilling on down. I wanted to go all the way down toward the creek, which is Tule Creek down there, but it looks too blocked off. Tule Creek is part of, believe it or not, the Tennessee Valley Authority. It spills into Conemaugh River, and Conemaugh River has a dam. And in late winter, when you have the snow melt, they close that dam, and this whole area fills up with like 70 feet of water. It's really pretty incredible. It stays that way for a couple of weeks, and then the water goes back down. But, back in my younger days, I used to come down here with friends, and we'd party and have a grand old time. I brought a lot of my friends down in here. Since we're planning on selling this part of the farm, I did want to get it on video. And, now let's see if I can get out of here. Here's a closer look at some of the rocks. Like I said, this is a stream bed. It's pretty dry right now. Hasn't been a lot of rain in western Pennsylvania the last 2 months. But I can remember water coming down here, and it was a pretty impressive sight. I'm on my way out. Funny how downhill is so much easier than uphill. I wasn't so sure coming down here with a camera was such a good idea. The reason is I'm holding the camera in one hand, and sometimes climbing over all these rocks you need both hands. So I'm trying to be extra careful here, but I am glad I got some of these shots. The woods, baby.